Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Everyone checking in on the Canadian MJ sector as we are wrapping up the week. So I have not been trading Canadian MJ much at all recently. Number one, because I can't play bearish, and obviously we are in a bearish trend on a lot of these daily charts. Fidelity doesn't have shorts available for CRON or WEED right now. I don't like the options liquidity to play puts. So I have just been sitting on my hands, and I traded way less Canadian MJ, probably less Canadian MJ traded this week compared to any time in the last few months. And that's because the setup is not clear. So a nice prime example, someone on Reddit tried to call me out a couple weeks ago and said, ever notice how Charting Man Dan only posts videos when the setups are clear? Which, when you think about it, that's how you should be trading. When the setups are clear, you're trading hard, fast, with a lot of capital. And when it's not clear, you're not trading. So I've been trading other things. There's been plenty of tech sector volatility. There's been some crypto trades, but I've been mostly just scalping in the tech sector this week. And it's been a really good week doing so. So I have not missed Canadian MJ in the slightest. And I'm patiently waiting for more clarity. And then when we get that clarity, that's when I'll begin trading more actively in this space. But right now, I'm just being very patient. I'm looking forward to October and the run up into October. And until then, I'm not forcing any trades. If the trades come to me, great. I was watching ACB for a break of 710. We'll look at that in just a moment, but it never happened. So I never made any trades. So looking at WED on the weekly time frame, it's a potential bear flag. This is a very weak bounce, and we could very easily see another leg down and a break of 31.81, which would have us looking back at this range of support. So just looking at this weekly time frame for the supports that we have established on the way up, every single one with a clear period of consolidation forming a support level, and we have yet to do so yet. So we had a little support here. This is not really a clear consolidation. We essentially on the weekly time frame ran from 27 up to 48, which is very rough math, maybe 70% or so. We ran that far in a very insignificant amount of time. So we have now begun consolidating back down through those areas where we did not establish a lot of support because we ran so hard. So the last clear consolidation with a couple weeks of a pullback is at $27. So the bulls really want to hold that level ideally. And you can see the low right now, 31.81. And if we break that level, we still have over 10% of space to go before we would get to that $27 support. So what's going to give me a clue as to whether or not this bear flag is going to follow through? The daily time frame losing higher lows will be an indication. And already we lost the higher lows on Thursday, but it's been choppy because Thursday broke supports and then the bulls bought the dip pretty significantly. Now we have an inside bar to be watching. So the pattern that's very clear to me that I'm going to be watching first thing on Monday is an hourly equilibrium. So if this equilibrium, let's just draw it out real quick with our tightening ranges. If it breaks bullish, there's a potential bull play there. And if it breaks bearish, there's a potential bear play. But if it's a bear break, I'm just going to sit back and patiently wait again. And keep in mind that we have had bull breaks on this move up over the past week that don't get a ton of follow through. So we had a bull break of 34.53 and we got up to 34.82, only a 29-cent move, not even 1% of follow through. So keep in mind that the bulls, even when they do break resistance, it's not what we're used to when we're in a very strong uptrend. So on the daily time frame, we have not seen 2 green days in a row in a month. That's very significant. So the range that I'm watching on this daily chart is 34.82 resistance and 32.85 support. We've been within this channel the entire week, and we're looking for a break of this price range to give a bit more clarity and to eliminate some of this choppy action that we're seeing. So hourly equilibrium, depending on how that breaks, might make a trade on Monday. If not, again, just very patiently waiting. We have these exponential moving averages. These are the ones that I use for crypto. There's a 12 and the 26 period, but you can see that they act as some decent support here on this bull move up. We held them multiple times on this daily time frame, holding support and seeing continuation, just grinding this 12 period. And here we are now grinding this 12 period as resistance, essentially 5 days in a row. So keeping an eye on that as well. And if the bulls do get a bull break over 34.82, we're looking at 35 and then 35.30. With the bear break, If we fall down and break 32.85, I'm looking at 32.50 and then down to the low of 31.81. We have earnings approaching for WEED. We just had a bearish reaction to APH earnings. We're in a state right now where the earnings that we get really don't have a huge reaction because there's not really any surprises in these reports. We don't really have, obviously we don't have recreational sales to be looking towards yet. And these earnings are not what these prices are based off of. They have an impact, but the prices are based off of future expectations and the speculation associated with it. So that's my play on WED. Very simple. Watch the hourly equilibrium Monday, see how it breaks. APH had a bit of a double whammy where we had the Molson deal go to somebody else, and we had the bearish reaction to earnings. So APH, I want to point something out first off is you can have earnings and bullish news be priced into a stock, but the stock doesn't have to go up to do so. So what I mean by that is in the past month, I looked at APH the day of earnings, and I was looking at where does the price of APH comparative to all these other names from 1 month ago. APH was pretty much break even. WEED was down 9%. Cron was down 9%. ACB was down 23%. So while that tells me we don't have a bullish run up into earnings, we are still holding up relatively compared to everybody else in the sector much stronger. And we could see the correlation with these names. You know, once that rumor started flying around about Molson that week, we could see very clearly the correlation favored the APH bulls comparative to all these other individual names. So while those names dropped significantly in the month after those rumors began, APH held up much better. So that tells me that to a certain degree, that news is being priced in. And we know everybody on Reddit and everybody out there in the social media world was really excited and hoping for this news. Obviously, because they didn't get the deal, it's not, a huge hit to the future. It would have been a nice bump. A lot of people were looking for it to potentially turn around the daily trend, and they didn't get it. So people that were looking for that then end up selling. And of course, compounded with people that sold on the reaction to the earnings, we have a pretty hefty pullback where we pulled back from 1151, and here we are down 10% lower. So we're at a key support range on APH as well. If we break this level of 1011, we're then looking down at this next range of price action, which is essentially between $9.63 and $10. So we'll see if the bulls are able to hold that support. But if not, again, this is pretty much just APH catching up with the weakness that the other names were seeing over the past month that allowed APH to hold up thanks to those rumors in part. So here's another one, a bull break on the daily. Obviously, again, those two factors leading to a fake out. Not a lot of follow through on any of the bull breaks in this sector right now, and we are testing some key support. RSI levels on APH, not too extreme. 4 hour is not oversold. Hourly is not even oversold. So we could break 1011, especially, if WEED breaks its hourly equilibrium bearish, APH could break 1011 on Monday. So in order to change these trends, again, I need clarity and I need some follow through on the daily time frame. I need higher lows and higher highs and a change in the trend, which isn't going to happen anytime soon with where we're standing on these names. ACB is still extremely weak. So we're continuing to monitor, the situation of the deal going through and the shares getting rebalanced and watching to see what the ETFs are doing with their big basket of shares now, because they have more shares than they probably wanted in ACB because the two companies combined. So again, if I have 4% of my entire holdings in Leaf and 4% in ACB. Next thing I know, I've got 8% in ACB now. So that's a little bit top heavy in some of these ETFs, and we're watching for the potential of selling pressure. But we just broke a key support of 675, and it's just now lower highs and lower lows continuing. Since the all-time high, we've got the high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low now. So we're nowhere near changing this weekly uptrend. And for ACB, it has a lot of work to do to try and change this weekly trend. We might not even do it until October. And let's see, we'll call it 3 trading weeks in August, 4 trading weeks in September. So 7 weeks, we could absolutely see it. But why I say it's going to take so long is because we have to see a bounce, and the bounce is going to set a lower high compared to 1072 unless there's huge news behind it. And in order to change the trend, we're going to have to bounce, set a lower high, set a higher low, and then break the lower highs. So that's going to take weeks and weeks to play out, and that's really pretty much weeks and weeks is when we're going to be looking towards October. So we're down at the low. We closed very weak. The next support level is 631 and 610. And if we don't hold these levels, look at the lack of support. Let's just go to the daily chart. The faster you run up, the less support you establish, and the faster you can drop. So aside from 631 and 610, the next support level after those levels is down at 521, or actually no, 501. So a ton of space to the downside. The daily RSI is oversold, but we've been oversold at this point for a couple weeks, and we get these tiny little bounces, this little bear flag that cooled off the RSI, and here we are dropping down to lower lows. So we broke 653, not by a huge amount, only broke it by 3 pennies, but very obviously the bears are still in full control. RSI has not been a great guide on these bounces. Look at the 4-hour RSI. I have flipped ACB a couple times just for some small gains because the bounce never got going. And here's this 710 level that we were watching. We had our low, high of the bounce at 710, higher low, double top, attempting to hold a higher low, and then broke support. So bears affirming their control. And we are very patiently waiting because, again, we can just see some weak bounces and some continued drifting down for the next month for all we know. So we have to be prepared against that. So that's where we stand on ACB. Oversold, but again, the RSI doesn't mean a ton. And we'll be watching to see if we continue to pull back and break that 653 level more convincingly on Monday with further downside. Daily RSI back to oversold. Same thing. When's the last time we've seen 2 green days in a row on ACB? It's almost been 6 weeks. That's a very, very long time to not even be able to put together 2 green days in a row. That shows a ton of downward pressure. Cron on the weekly time frame, also breaking a couple supports. We broke support of 815. Next, we're looking down at 706. So again, we have these periods of very clear consolidation where we pulled back for multiple weeks and established a support. And we had one little pullback here. It was a support level, not a huge clear level, but 706 is much more clear. Multiple weeks of pullback, established support of 706, and then see continuation. So we're heading down towards that level. The daily time frame pulling back, and we've seen times this week where Cron was doing its own thing. There was one day here, I believe a Thursday, where Cron was very clearly the lead bull in the sector, and nobody else was doing much. But again, no follow through. When's the last time we've seen 2 green days in a row? A month. So again, very notable that the bulls can't even put 2 green days in a row together in any of these major names. So we're looking down right now. 755 and 754 is a little double bottom, and then 737 is the recent low. And again, first sign of a trend change. Watch the 4-hour time frame. That'll be our first clue. Look at these lower highs and how clear they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lower highs. A little bit of an equilibrium to be watching. Hadn't seen this before. So I'll be watching this 4-hour Cron equilibrium to start the week. Bulls need to hold 750 and resistance is 789, 790. So 790 to 750. Bulls trying to form another higher low here at the end of the day. Going to have to get follow through back up towards 770 to remain in this tightening range. So that's a nice equilibrium to watch as well. WEED on the hourly, Cron on the 4-hour. We'll see how that plays out. OGI has been notably strong. Look at this weekly chart. Establishing a higher low after a decent amount of pullback from its all-time high, but holding on for these bulls and seeing a solid week. So we're going to be watching for an equilibrium here on the weekly, where if we set a lower high compared to the all-time high, which is likely 593, we'll then just look for the lower high and then a pullback and a higher low and a tightening weekly equilibrium into the end of, well, we'll see how long it could play out. We could stay within this pattern until we get to September. So daily time frame for OGI, very healthy consolidation. We saw the big breakout. We saw the gap up. We saw an indecision candlestick with a break of the low that indicated pullback is coming, where we just look for a higher low to form. And here it is at 492. So the bulls want to make their way up and break 533 to try and see continuation of this daily trend change, where we had, you can see the high of the bounce, higher low, higher high, another higher low, another higher high. So on this daily move, the bulls are clearly changing the trend and shifting momentum. And that's nice to see because, again, none of these other major names are seeing very bullish action. There are a bunch of smaller names that are seeing bullish action. So it's almost like people are taking their profits out of the bigger names for now and trading around with the little names. Let's look at CVSI real quick. That's been a raging bull. The weekly time frame for CVSI on fire. We saw tightening ranges and then a clear breakout for continuation. Look at the volume. Volume dropping off week after week after week as we get real tight, inside bar, and then a bull break explosion from 198 all the way up to 331. That is a huge move, 60+% in 2 weeks. Tons of trading opportunity here as well. So here's where we got real tight, the clear bull break. Again, the volume is just so very clear where the bull said, all right, let's go. We're done consolidating. Higher low established at 233, trying to form another one at 275. If we lose 275, we will need to see further consolidation. Again, a bit overextended. The bulls have been in full control of this chart. Very different looking than these other names that we just looked at. And we'll see if these bulls can keep 275 support and break 331 to try for continuation again. TLRY, recent IPO. Not a whole lot of trading opportunity just because we don't have a ton of volume. Look at the volume drop off. Friday was the lowest volume day of the year. We did get a little bounce. I mean, the gains are there in terms of 2150 up to 2437, over a 10% bounce. But we're just looking for a lower high on the daily time frame here as well. Anything under 2774 is a lower high, so we're not even close there. And to look to change the trend, we're going to look to set a lower high, a higher low compared to the recent low of 2150, and then break the lower highs. We are watching very diligently for when ETFs are going to start buying, because when ETFs start buying TLRY, because it is so thinly traded and because there's such a lack of volume, we do believe that it is going to significantly bump up the price when that happens, and we want to ride the coattails of the big boys as they load up those shares and drive up the price. So it's something we're keeping an eye on. At this point, I don't like the setup on the daily for an entry. I want to see consolidation again after setting another daily lower high, and I'm patiently waiting for that, and then we'll look for a volume spike to break this declining volume pattern and get some volatility going again. So I appreciate you watching again. Sitting on your hands there's nothing wrong with that. Cash is a position. You can be patiently waiting. You can be trading other things, starting to explore other markets, whether it's gold or tech sector or crypto or whatever it is. I find that one of the biggest helpful things for me to not overtrade, because again, knowing when to turn off the switch from going heavy and hard to scaling way back and trading way more picky is very important, to not give up profits that you have accumulated during the times when things are easy. But the number one reason for me that I'm able to do that so easily is because I always have something else that I can be looking to trade. So it's not like I have to, shut my computer and say, okay, I can't trade anything, I just have to wait. That would be a lot more difficult. But for me, it's just, okay, I'm going to go look over here and keep an eye on this sector, but not do anything until the trade comes to me. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. That's that. Do good things.